We will be discussing the massive girth of Bib Fortuna on today's Star Wars lore video. Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars video. Today we will be talking again about the season finale of The Mandalorian, and in particular, the post-credit scene that I've heard a lot of you guys missed, and I can't blame you. The Mandalorian has never had a post-credit scene. That's not really something that happens in Star Wars, and there wasn't even the pretty concept art. Nonetheless, there was a post-credit scene which showed Boba Fett and Fennec Shand traveling to Tatooine, killing some of the guards in Jabba's palace and ousting the now very obese Bib Fortuna from Jabba's former throne. However, Bib Fortuna has now gotten really fat. That's just putting it simply. He has put on a lot of weight, more than just a little bit of quarantine weight. He's probably doubled his body mass here. And yeah, part of the joke is probably supposed to be that he's sort of taken on the form of Jabba the Hutt in his former master's stead, but I mean, there's got to be something more to this, especially where one of the other very obese characters in Star Wars history, besides for Jabba himself, was Orn Free Taa, who, despite having 4 Leku, was also a Twi'lek, like Bib Fortuna. So what's the reason for the obesity? And I mean, yeah, part of it probably is just living an extremely lavish lifestyle, and I actually popped open my copy of the Complete Visual Dictionary because I remembered there being a section in particular on Orn Free Taa and the other Republic senators, and he's got a little arrow pointing to his face which says bloated features caused by lavish, indulgent lifestyle. Pretty similar to what's going on here, but I just feel like there's got to be some sort of psychological reason for such an explosive weight gain. I mean, Bib here was threatening to rip one of Tatooine's suns out of its orbit, and on Reddit and on other discussion forums, I saw some people mention that this is because of Twi'lek society and the fact that obesity is a sign of great wealth. I had never personally heard of that in particular, so I went on Star Wars Wiki, and lo and behold, there's a little sentence that says obesity is a sign of great wealth, but the reference is to a Star Wars magazine that I've never even heard of, and even if I had, I don't really take that as a very important source of canon, especially in Legends, where it seems like this issue is sort of an extra thing you got alongside an action figure. So I decided to look at more substantial pieces of lore, and I couldn't find anything that said that in particular, that obesity was a sign of wealth and success in Twi'lek society, although I'm very certain that it could be out there, and if you found the source, let me know down below. It could be even in the Clone Wars, an episode that I forgot about, I'm not sure. What I have found is enough evidence to suggest to me that that point is quite valid, although it's not explicitly said. First of all, if we look at Ryloth and how Twi'leks are portrayed in the Clone Wars, we can tell that even when they're not under separatist occupation, that the Twi'lek society really values being able to take care of the people under you. I think we see that with Cham Syndulla, but also that life on the planet is very, very difficult, and if anything, I would say that the Clone Wars probably understates that point. And if we look at Star Wars Legends, the Twi'leks are presented as a species with a very, very difficult past, and one where, interestingly enough, on the planet you probably wouldn't even have the capability to live a comfortable life, one where you could become obese. We'll talk about the Twi'lek species and society in a second, but first I want to take a look at Ryloth, the Twi'lek home planet, as it's described in the Essential Atlas, because I think it does a good job of setting the scene. Ryloth is a planet of extremes, marked by turbulent seasons that march from its scorching deserts to its snowy wastes. Rylek technology is not particularly advanced. Some off-worlds come to Ryloth to view the wind-suspended stones of the famous floating rock gardens, but most value only 2 things: slaves and spice. Ryloth has used slavery as its primary currency since its time of entry into the Republic, circa 10,000 BBY. Twi'lek dancing girls are perennially popular, and their sale has long been tolerated by whichever government holds power on Coruscant. When we get to the actual Twi'lek race itself, we get some interesting information. A lot of Twi'leks, as I guessed, wouldn't have been obese, and in fact, we know specifically from the Darth Bane series, particular Rule of 2, with the Twi'lek Keladin, that most Lethans, who are the red-skinned Twi'leks were tall, broad-shouldered, and generally good-looking. If we look at the new Essential Guide to Aliens, then we also get the fact that Twi'leks are tall and generally thin humanoids indigenous to the Ryloth system. Again, generally thin. Continuing, the book reinforces the fact that Twi'leks, especially those on Rylith, have a very, very tough life, with much of the planet being inhospitable and even the livable parts being not very pleasant. The civilization is a primitive industrial one, with, interestingly enough, the species relying largely on molds and fungi, more so than actual meat, for sustenance, despite the fact that Twi'leks are technically omnivores. The chapter then follows up by saying that Ryloth is not only difficult because of its weather conditions, but also by the fact that the planet has become infested with crime, and the species, although quite spread across the galaxy, largely tries to keep their head down and not get involved in galactic affairs, which we did see in the Clone Wars and even the Yuuzhan Vong War in Star Wars Legends. So most of that content is legend specific, but it really does jive with what we get in Star Wars canon, including in the Clone Wars. So if I were to say, why did Bib Fortuna get so fat? It's because that's perhaps understandable for a Twi'lek who now has access to a crap load of resources and food. Twi'leks would have been used to fighting for their position. We also know that from how their clan structures operate, with basically Twi'lek families fighting amongst themselves and each other for power. So it kind of does make sense that if a Twi'lek does find some level of comfort, that they could overindulge, but also the fact that a Twi'lek that is able to get fat, that has both the resources and the lack of need to be physically fit, could be seen as very influential, and again, that goes back to the opulence of Orn Free Ta. Or maybe the man just liked to eat. I don't know, it is fun to overanalyze some of this stuff, and I do think you can find a psychological and societal reason why Bib Fortuna got so fat, but it could also be that maybe those frogs that Jabba was stocking up were just really, really tasty. I will say, personally, I'm more excited to learn how Bib Fortuna was able to sort of get Jabba's throne. I mean, presumably he had lots of details about Jabba's criminal empire, but we see Boba Fett was able to move in and muscle him out. I'm kind of surprised that didn't happen earlier. He had 5 years where he was presumably running things and doing so perhaps successfully. This is also why I love Tatooine. It's one of my favorite planets in Star Wars, despite the fact that visually it's quite boring. I think it provides a really interesting underworld for the characters to be involved in. There are lots of little seedy towns. I like the idea of vast wasteland deserts with dragons and stuff in it. It's a very almost fantastical location, especially when you get the suns in there and everything else. But guys, that's all I have for today. Let me know, what did you think of this video? Was it stupid? Did I overanalyze? I look forward to reading your very, very nice comments down below. Until next time, guys, be safe, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you.